Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, The John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me, my friends, standing around a virtual water cooler, talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that types of good stuff. We've got a hell of a lot to cover here today, so let's dive right into it. We're going to start things off here with a little bit of talk about Venom. Now, Venom, of course, had its technical opening night. I mean, the official opening day is today on Friday, but we all know that means the movie's actually open on Thursday night. Well, the Venom film did pretty damn good. As a matter of fact, it made $10 million on its Thursday preview night, which makes it the brand new record holder for the all-time preview night, opening night for an October film in history. It edged out a whole bunch of other films, including, it should be noted, that it edged out Ant-Man and the Wasp that opened just a few months ago, of course, which opened with around $6.5 million on its opening preview night. So we've got Venom now just blasting through those records and coming at 10. This basically tells us, it doesn't guarantee anything, but what it does basically tell us is that these early projections that Venom could come in between that $55 and $65 million opening weekend range, give or take a couple of million, it looks like it's on track to do that. And like we've been saying for a while, if this movie, with about a $100 million budget, can come in on its opening weekend in that $50 to $60 to $65 million range, Sony is going to count that as a big win. A huge win. Plus, it would be enough to set the all-time opening October record for any film with its opening weekend in the month of October, if it can come in. Like right now, the current record holder, I believe, is Gravity, the Sandra Bullock film. That's got the all-time opening weekend record for an October. It looks like Venom is on pace to break that record. So, it looks like a lot of those negative reviews that came out and some of the controversy, Lady Gaga fans going out and promoting this fake anti-Venom campaign on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, it looks like it didn't derail the momentum of Venom. Now, how well this movie will do overall, like when it's all said and done, how much money is this movie actually going to take in? Like once word of mouth gets out there, and we'll get to that in just a second, will it lose momentum really fast? Will it have any legs? These are all questions we'll have to answer later. But for now, it does look like it's on pace to hit those targets it set. And that's nothing but good news for, number one, Venom. It's also nothing but good news for Sony. But I'll tell you what else it means. It's good news for those of us who like having Spider-Man in the Marvel MCU. Because I've been telling you guys for a while, if Venom can succeed financially, it'll make Sony feel better about the idea of leaving Spider-Man in the MCU and better about the ideas that they can develop their own cinematic universe without Spider-Man being a part of it. This movie opens up to $55 million plus. I think we're pretty safe with Spider-Man in the MCU. We will, of course, all keep our fingers crossed. All right, let's go on to the next thing here. Speaking of Venom, I finally took the opportunity to go out last night. Me and Ray went out and checked out Venom last night as it opened in AMC theaters. I went to go check it out. I've been telling you guys, Sony has been hiding this film. Sony had no belief that the critics were going to like this thing. Turns out they were right. The critics have not been favorable to it. The last I checked, Venom came in at a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it started off around 24 and then climbed up to 30. As a matter of fact, give me 1 second here. Let me see where it's at real time right now. Right now, Venom on Rotten Tomatoes is rocking and it's still holding steady at 30%. So only about 1 out of every 3 critics went to go see it. I told you guys, if Sony doesn't have any belief in this film, why should I? So I lost all my faith in the movie. I went to go see it last night. I'm sorry. It's actually not bad. It's actually not bad. Let me start by telling you one of my biggest complaints about the movie. And I was like, I don't have a watch, but I instinctively felt myself wanting to look at a watch. This movie goes too long before Venom actually gets introduced. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I went into this movie looking for Venom to blah, right there, right off the beginning of the movie. It's just Venom, like doing all of his scary stuff. I wasn't looking for that. But I felt like we got a good 20, 25 minutes into the movie before the symbiote and Eddie actually came into contact with each other. and it felt long. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying there wasn't anything half decent in that first act of the film. There was. We got to know Eddie a little bit. We got to understand his relationship with Michelle Williams. We got to understand the premise of the Life Foundation, what was going on, where the symbiotes came from. They established some pretty good work in the first act. But unfortunately, they just dragged out far too long when we actually got Eddie and the symbiote together. And it felt long. And it made it feel like it was dragging. And I, as an audience member, and I think a lot of other people who were there last night as well, started getting impatient with the film, right? Just started getting impatient with the film. And, you know, it's like a romance movie when the lead guy and the lead girl are looking at each other this close face to face and you're waiting for them to kiss, but they just sit there staring at each other for 7 minutes. It's like, are we going to get on with this or like move along? That's what I felt like watching Venom. So that was the biggest piece of frustration for me. But I'm going to tell you what, let me echo what a lot of other people, even people who don't like this movie, are saying. The Venom and Eddie relationship and dynamic is dynamite. It works great. All the best moments about this film are the interactions and the dynamic. And I'm going to tell you what, here's a word you didn't expect to hear mentioned when talking about Venom. The evolution of the relationship, the development of the relationship, the progression of the dynamic between the symbiote Venom and, of course, Eddie Brock. It's great. It really is. There is some solid character work being done there. And I had no expectation of that going into a movie called Venom. But there's actual character work that happens between these two characters merging into one entity, right? The conversations between them I thought were hilarious. I thought, look, you could have gone really dark and violent. And believe me, there's a big body count in this movie. A lot of people were nervous. Oh, there's not going to be any violence because it's not rated R. Big body count. Big body count in Venom. Lots of bodies dropping all over the place. So it's plenty violent. But I think a lot of people some people just wanted something really dark and evil and whatever. And that's fine. That's no problem. You can make movies like that and they'd be fantastic. But I'm telling you what they did here was great. Now, I'm not going to give away anything, but you see a lot of people online talking about the pussy line and some people complaining about whatever. I'm telling you what, the entire theater I was in last night when that line got dropped, and I won't tell you where it drops, but the whole audience was laughing their asses off when I was there last night. That is a prime element for me that really worked for the movie. Not everything worked on that level, not at all, but the Eddie Venom stuff was great. Also, the action was really solid. You know, the Sony released that one clip of Venom taking out like the 20 armed soldiers. It plays out just as well on the big screen, if not better than it did in the clip. It worked really well. It was exciting. It was visceral. It was like a lot of moments going like, ugh, like you saw in the clip, right, where he takes the one guy by the foot and he just basically uses him as a weapon, smashing him out. Yeah, that dude's dead. That dude's dead. And Venom does eat a number of people in the movie, so don't worry, Venom does eat people. But I'm not going to tell you when or where the circumstances, but you saw in the trailer that he was going to eat some people. I'm just telling you what, the action was actually quite good. If there is a big area of weakness besides the dragging of that opening first act, that if I was the type of guy that I didn't have any problems getting up and walking out of movies, I almost would have walked out of the first act of Venom. I'm glad that I didn't, but I may have. But besides that, I don't think they did enough with the Riz Ahmed character. Now, of course, Riz Ahmed plays the big villain in the film. They did not give us, whereas we had development with Venom and development with Eddie and even development with Michelle Williams' character, we really didn't get any of that with Riz Ahmed. Like from the moment you see him, I'm evil. And from the last shot that he's in the movie, I'm evil. I mean, there's just that. Remember the old Spider-Man movies, right? The villains always had progression. They started off in one place, they ended off in another, whether it was Doc Ock or whether it was Goblin or whether it was anybody. They gave character development to the villains. They did not do that in Venom. And that to me is one of the big glaring weaknesses other than the dragging of the first act. So to me, that was one of the other big glaring weaknesses. I'll also say this. There's no big moment in Venom that you walk out of the theaters going, wow. Like, you know how this is just using a little bit of hyperbole to make the point. But, you know, you got Avengers Infinity War, the dusting, the snap, right? There's that moment. In the first Avengers, there's a few of them, but like Hulk going, like grabbing Loki and smashing him all over the place. There's that moment. Logan has one or two of those moments. A lot of the great Dark Knight has one or two of those moments. There was no big moment, in Venom that kind of becomes a defining moment that you can walk away from and always think about and go over and replay in your head a few times. There's no moment like that that really stands out as super exceptional. I'll also say this. There are 2 post-credit scenes, all right? 2 post-credit things. One mid-credits, one at the end. I've heard a lot of people talking about how amazing the mid-credit scene is. I've seen a lot of people online, even critics who don't like Venom, online saying, yeah, Venom's not so good. Oh, but the mid-credit scene is great. I'll be honest with you, I was completely underwhelmed with the mid-credit scene. Completely underwhelmed with it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It had potential. It gave you a couple of pieces of a puzzle that could have been pretty cool. But at the end of it, I'm like, that's what everybody was getting excited about? Seriously? That's what everybody was getting all... Anyway, I just thought it was kind of a waste. To me, the winning post-credit stuff was the stuff at the very end of the credits. And again, I won't give anything away, but stick around to the very end of the credits. I think you'll be happy if you do that. Look, overall, Venom's just not that bad. I actually walked out, and it was one of those situations. This will differ from audience to audience. I'm sure some audiences moaned out loud when they watched Venom. But I'm just saying, the audience I was sitting with last night, 5 p.m. at the AMC Burbank 16, there was a big round of applause when the credits started to roll. And I'm sure your theater may have been different. I'm not saying anything otherwise. But, Ray and I walked out and we went, you know what? That wasn't bad. Not my top 3 comic book movies of the year. Nothing I'm going to be recommending to people to run out and see. So I came out of Venom and I tweeted out, if you guys follow me on Twitter, and if not, why not? Follow me on Twitter, simply at John Campea. But I tweeted out, Venom is not awful. It actually had more upside than I was expecting. And I was expecting, after putting out that tweet, to get this avalanche of negative tweets from people saying, what are you talking about, Campea? This movie was awful. But honestly, I got about, I think about 300 responses, and I think about 290 of them were like, yeah, me too. I saw the movie. I kind of liked it. Or some people saying they loved it. Not a lot of people saying they loved it, but some people saying they loved it. I didn't love it, but a lot of people going, yeah, I was thinking it was going to be trash and it was pretty good. Look, I'm not telling you guys to rush out and watch Venom. I didn't like it that much, so I'm not telling you to rush out and watch Venom. And I'm not saying any critic out there who didn't like it is crazy. Nope, I'm not saying that at all. I recognize there's downsides to this. I recognize the problems in this, and those problems may have affected them a little bit differently than it affected me. All I'm telling you is, as a guy who lost all faith in this movie, and maybe my lowered expectations has something to do with this, but as a guy who lost all faith in this movie, I walked out of Venom going, you know what? It's worth watching. It's a movie that's worth watching. A Star is Born is clearly the best movie opening this weekend, but if you're going to go see 2 movies this weekend, I'm going to tell you, I don't think you're wasting your time going to see Venom. I was expecting it to be trash, all this kind of stuff. Sure enough, a lot of the critics don't like it. Sure enough, I'm sure a lot of the audience doesn't like it either. Totally get it. But for me, not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Anyway, have you guys had a chance to see Venom yet? If so, what are your thoughts? Jump down in the comments section below and let me know what you guys are thinking about it. All right, with that out of the way, let's get on to our main topics today. And of course, our main topics are selected by you guys. How do you send in a topic or a question to be on the John Campea Show? It's really simple. Just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put that word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, make sure you keep those emails to 90 words or less, or else I wouldn't even be able to fit them on the screen, even if I wanted to use your email. All right. With that being said, let's go to the first email today. And the first email today comes to us from Videna, who writes, like a lot of other people, I've been asking, where the hell is Batman? And today I've got to ask it again. Matt Reeves has supposed to be working on this movie, and all I hear about is news about other projects he's doing now. The latest is this Netflix deal with him and Shonda Rhimes doing a movie and show for a book called Recursion. When will Reeves bless us when will Reeves bless us commoners with some Batman work? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Vedena. And yes, Matt Reeves and the creator, Shonda Rhimes, who is the creator of Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and a bunch of other shows, they are partnering together. They just made a deal with Netflix to do this show called Recursion. And I believe it's going to be a series and a movie that they're going to do both on Netflix, creating kind of like a little bit of a cinematic universe within this Recursion world. Now, sticking on the topic of Recursion, what's this movie about? The way the trades are describing it, it's described like this. Recursion is part save-the-world sci-fi thriller, part epic romance, as well as an intricate police procedural. The book explores what happens when a brilliant female scientist invents a powerful technology that allows people not just to reactivate their most visceral memories, but to reinvent them entirely. For some, it offers the chance to rewrite their entire lives. In the wrong hands, though, it will upend the world as we know it. Now look, we found out a while ago that Matt Reeves and his production company had entered into a first-look development deal with Netflix. So we've known for a while that Matt Reeves, who's supposed to be working on Batman, had other stuff, other irons in the fire, as well, as the saying goes, that he was going to be working on this stuff. So this shouldn't come as any bit of a surprise. Now, is Matt Reeves way behind on his Batman development? Yes. I think he's just turned in his first draft, not the completed, but first draft of the Batman script, a script that was supposed to be submitted a year ago. Believe me, there are a number of studio execs that are very frustrated. If you think you're frustrated, dude, there are a number of studio execs who are also quite frustrated because the first draft was supposed to be submitted a year ago. That's how far behind Matt Reeves is on this. But should we be getting upset as people looking forward to a Matt Reeves Batman movie that we hear announcements like these for Recursion when he's supposed to be working on Batman? Honestly, no, we shouldn't be getting upset at this. Look, nobody does just one thing. Like, even if I'm working on a big project, I've got other things I can also do during the day. And remember, this isn't just Matt Reeves as an individual. This is his production company. He has other individuals working with him as well that are going to be shouldering a lot of the work for this Recursion stuff. So just because he's working on a Batman script and developing a Batman movie, that does not mean that he and his company are completely incapable of doing other things at the same time. So yes, I understand the optics of it. The visuals of this don't look good. We're way behind on Batman development, and yet here he is working on something else. I get that optically that doesn't look so good. But the reality is, once you move beyond the optics, is the fact that, look, the dude can do more than one thing at once. I don't think he'd be any further ahead on his Batman stuff if it wasn't for this Recursion thing. I don't think the Recursion stuff's going to affect it at all. So I think we can all just take a deep breath and go, okay, fine, whatever. Now let's talk about Recursion for a second. It's an interesting sci-fi sounding plot. And I never would have put the storytelling sensibilities of a Rhimes and Reeves together, but the fact that they are just adds to the interest for this. I'm intrigued by this project. I'll tell you what, I am intrigued by it. I'm curious to see how this moves forward in its development and seeing what kind of a show and movie on Netflix it turns out being. All right, let's move on to the second email today. And the second email today comes to us from Brian Novell, who writes, I saw the tweet from Chris Evans saying he's wrapped his Avengers 4 shooting and thanking everyone for the 8 years he's played the role. So is that it? Is he saying he's actually done playing Captain America? Does that confirm Captain America dies in Avengers 4? Or is this some sort of misdirect? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Brian. And that has been the headline running everywhere across the interwebs, right? Look anywhere on any of your movie news feeds, and you will see the title, Chris Evans announces he's done as Captain America. Chris Evans officially finished as Captain America. Chris Evans hangs up the shield as Captain. That's the headline everywhere. I saw those headlines, like a lot of you guys. I saw those headlines before I saw Chris Evans's tweet. So when I opened up Chris Evans's tweet, I was expecting to see him say something like, It's with mixed emotions, great gratitude, and a heavy heart at the same time to announce I'm officially retiring as Captain America. It's been a wonderful 8 years, but for every good thing must come to an end. And after seeing all these headlines, I was expecting to see this tweet where Chris Evans definitively says, I'm officially done. But guess what? His tweet doesn't actually say it. Does it imply it? It may. But does it actually say it? No, it doesn't. Here's what Chris Evans tweeted. Word for word, he said this. I'm officially wrapped on Avengers 4. It was an emotional day to say the least. Playing this role over the last 8 years has been an honor. To everyone in front of the camera, behind the camera, and in the audience, thank you for the memories, eternally grateful. Let me read that again. Officially wrapped on Avengers 4. It was an emotional day to say the least. Playing this role over the last 8 years has been an honor. To everyone in front and behind the camera, thank you, and the audience. Thank you for the memories. Eternally grateful. I want to point something out here. Show me in this tweet that everybody is referencing exactly where Chris Evans definitively says, I am now done playing Captain America. You won't see me playing Captain America again. Show me in this tweet where he definitively says that. I'll get you to the end here. You can't, because he doesn't actually definitively say in the tweet that he is done. I will admit, though, for sure, can you make an argument that it's kind of implied? Yeah, you can, totally. I'm not going to dispute that whatsoever. I'm not disputing that. Is it implied? Could it be implied, interpreted in such a way that it's implied he's done? Yeah, it can. But the way all these headlines are reading, it made it sound like Chris Evans has come out and said, I am officially done, and then was going to tweet a picture of him handing the shield back to Kevin Feige or something like that. But the reality is this tweet simply does not do that. Now, I am not saying, I know everybody's going to start misquoting me. I am not saying that Chris Evans is definitely going to be Captain America past Avengers 4. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Chris Evans is definitely not done as Captain America. I'm not saying that either. All I'm saying, with somebody who, like you, has a little bit of common sense, is saying, when you look at the tweet, it doesn't actually say he's done and he's never going to be Captain America again. As a matter of fact, guys, look at this tweet again. Take a close look at it. This tweet is really not all that unsimilar to a statement that Chris made just about a year ago, kind of covering the same topic. Let's go back about a year ago. This is what Chris Evans said talking about Captain America and playing Captain America. My contract is up. After Avengers 4, his contract is done. So he said, my contract is up. I'm not going to sit here and say no more. I think Hugh Jackman has made like 47 Wolverine movies, and they somehow keep getting better. It's a character I love, and it's a factory that really knows what they're doing. The system is sound over there. They make great movies. If they weren't kicking out quality, I'd have a different opinion, but everything Marvel does seems to be cinema gold. And like I said, I love the character. The only reason it would end is because my contract is up after Avengers 4. My contract is done. Talk to Marvel. If we engage further, I'm open to it. This tweet that he put out is really no different than the message he put out a year ago. His contract is up. But he's always said he's completely open to coming back and playing more. So I'm not saying he's still Captain America after Avengers 4. I'm not saying this absolutely does not mean he's done. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm suggesting to everybody, before we start running these headlines, Chris Evans officially done as Captain America, all I'm saying is take a breath, actually read what he wrote, compare what he wrote to his other statements that he's made about the same thing, and really we're not in any different of a position than we were a few months ago. His contract is up, Marvel can still bring him back, and he's completely open to coming back. Remember, Robert Downey Jr.'s contract was up at 1.2, and he's still frickin' Iron Man. Everybody's contract runs out at some point. His contract's up. He may never be back again as Captain America, which would suck if that's the case, but it might be the case, but we don't know that yet. And by the way, if he really was 100% done, do you think Marvel 5 months out or however many months out we are from Avengers 4, do you think Marvel's going to approve Chris Evans putting out a tweet basically letting everybody know, bye guys, I'm done in this movie? That would represent an enormous spoiler. It would represent an enormous spoiler. So again, because I know everybody's going to start misquoting me saying, Campea is saying he's not done. No, he may be. And I can totally see how the implied message in the tweet is that. Totally see that. I'm just saying, let's take a breath, actually read what was written, compare that to the statements he's always made consistently over this past year. And I'm just saying, you cannot with a straight face say that Chris Evans has definitively said he's never going to be Captain America again. You can't say that. The evidence is just not there to support saying that. It could be, but right now it's not. And maybe his contract's up, and then 3 weeks before Avengers 4 comes out, he signs a new contract. Look, all I'm saying is that there's nothing definitive saying that he's done. That's it. He may be done. It might be implied. We may never see him as Captain America again. We just can't say that definitively right now, like everybody is running around saying it's definitive. So that's all I'm saying about that. What do you guys think about that? How do you interpret his tweet? How do you interpret his tweet when you compare it to the other things he said? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know what you guys think. All right, let's move on now to the third question. And the third email today comes to us from Vince Lang, who writes, John, did you see the director's list for The Mandalorian? And did you see the picture? Exactly like you were describing, a gritty Western feel. My expectations are now through the roof. What are you thinking about it right now? All right, so as you guys know, the other day we talked about how Jon Favreau came out and said the title of his new Star Wars live-action show, the very first Star Wars live-action show in history, is called The Mandalorian, and he described it like an old Western, a Mandalorian gunfighter on the outskirts of the galaxy. Sounds amazing. Sounds like a fistful of dollars in the Star Wars universe. Sounds great. But the news got better because, like you can see in the sidebar here, they've already begun production, and the first official production picture has come out. You can see it here. That is a badass looking Mandalorian. I love the look of the character. He looks terrific. So it's a great picture. However, it is still just a still image. There are still images from the garbage Transformers movies that look good. So just because an image looked good doesn't mean anything. The real thing to get excited about here was they listed off the directors for the 10-episode first season. And it is a hell of a list of directors. Starting off, this is going to make a lot of Star Wars fans happy. The showrunner of the animated shows Clone Wars and Rebels, Dave Filoni, is one of the directors of the series. He's going to be directing the pilot and perhaps another episode as well. On top of that, you got the director of What We Do in the Shadows and Thor Ragnarok, Taika Waititi, which everybody is clamoring for this guy to direct a whole bunch of stuff. He's going to be directing 1 or 2 of the episodes. You also got the acclaimed director of Dope, Rick Famuyiwa, is going to be directing this thing as well. And somebody that we only really know as an actress, and that's Bryce Dallas Howard, whose short film Soulmates got a lot of attention. She's never directed a feature film. Neither has Dave Filoni, at least nothing live action. But this is the type of thing where directors like this should be cutting their teeth. Episodes of live action shows like this. I think this is a perfect thing for Dave Filoni to do. I think this is a perfect thing for Bryce Dallas Howard to do. Having Taika and Rick in there as well is nothing but exciting. The other interesting note about Bryce Dallas Howard is this is kind of like keeping it in the family. Because Bryce Dallas Howard is kind of George Lucas's niece in a way. Of course, because Bryce Dallas Howard is Ron Howard's daughter. Ron Howard, who just directed Solo and who worked with George Lucas way back in the day and was kind of a mentor to Ron Howard, right? So you got Bryce Dallas Howard, who's kind of a spiritual niece to George Lucas, joining it as well. Look, guys, I think everybody's going to get excited about this. I think everybody's got to get excited about this. Now, I understand there's a bunch of people that have some pessimism about Star Wars right now. Totally understandable. Nothing wrong with that. But I think even the most pessimistic person about the Star Wars universe right now has got to be sitting back and going, okay, gritty Western style with a Mandalorian, written and showrun by Jon Favreau. You got Dave Filoni directing the premiere. You got Taika Waititi, Rick. You got Bryce Dallas Howard. All of them. I mean, even if you're pessimistic, you got to feel at least a little bit of optimism about that. Again, none of this guarantees that this show is going to be any good. It could be a hot, steaming pile of shit for all we know. But at least on the surface, you got to admit this looks pretty good. And that director list to me is just really impressive. And finally, Lucasfilm giving Dave Filoni an opportunity to direct something live action. See, my big objection when people say Dave Filoni should direct a Star Wars movie, I'm like, I don't want a dude who's never directed a live action thing in his life making the first live action film he directs some huge tentpole project like a Star Wars movie. Give him something else to cut his teeth on. This is the exact sort of thing that is perfect for him to cut his teeth on. So to me, this is super exciting all the way around. What do you guys think about this? Are you excited about the director's list? Are you disappointed? Jump down to the comment section and let me know. All right. We move on now to the final email of the day. And the final email in question today comes to us from Curtis Lopez, who writes, "Hello, John. Did you see the new trailer for the Clint Eastwood Did you see the new trailer for the Clint Eastwood trailer, The Mule? I really dig it. Looks intense, has kind of that Sicario, No Country for Old Men / Logan feel to it. So excited. Potential Oscar contender? Your thoughts?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, yesterday, the brand new first trailer for the brand new Clint Eastwood, Bradley Cooper movie, The Mule, which is based on a true story. Fascinating stuff. It's about the oldest man in history to both work with the FBI and got busted by the FBI, who actually worked as a drug mule for the drug cartels. And the dude's in his 90s and stuff like that, and Clint Eastwood plays this guy. You've got me hooked just from the description of it. You got Clint Eastwood directing the damn thing and starring in it. And oh, by the way, only one of the most single decorated directors of all time. You're talking about a dude who's got 4 Academy Award nominations just for directing. He's got 2 Oscar statues. He won Best Director for Unforgiven, one of the greatest Westerns of all time. He's got a Best Director win for $1 Million Baby. And he very easily could have won a 3rd Best Director trophy for Mystic River. I mean, seriously, I really honestly thought he was going to win for Mystic River. He didn't. And of course, he was also nominated for Letters to Iwo Jima, which was fantastic. He wasn't going to win that year, but so he's got 2 Best Director trophies, could have had 3, 4 nominations, one of the best storytellers in the business right now. He's got Bradley Cooper, who he's worked with before to great success. This trailer looks outstanding. It's simply an outstanding looking trailer. It's got that intensity. It feels vintage Clint Eastwood. It like many first trailers, it doesn't give a lot away as far as plot or anything like that goes. So it doesn't give a whole hell of a lot away on that level, which is fine. Actually, it's perfect. You wait for that for the second trailer. Does a film like this have Oscar potential? Listen, who knows? Who knows? It doesn't matter how good a trailer looks or whatever. It's just a trailer. The one thing that makes me think this is a movie that has some Oscar potential, besides the fact that it's got the great Clint Eastwood directing it and you got Bradley Cooper in it, is this. Clint Eastwood finished this film early. They did not think they were going to be able to release this thing until next year. Eastwood finished early, and they put it right smack dab in the Oscar window late December, coming in just under the wire for qualification for the upcoming Oscars. To me, it may not mean anything, but to me, that tells me they believe this film has tons of Oscar potential. So they want, and they're putting it out in the death window, that 8-day window with those 10 major films opening up, including Bumblebee, Alita Battle Angels move, thank goodness, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the untitled Deadpool movie. You got like on and on, Aquaman. You got all these movies opening there, and they were like, you know what, it doesn't matter. We believe this thing has Oscar potential. We're going to drop it in before the end of December. That's where we're putting it. So on that level, I think the film's got some Oscar potential. We'll have to wait and see. For all we know, the movie's a pile of crap. I mean, we don't know. The trailer looks good, but how many times have we seen great trailers to terrible movies? So let's just wait and see. But hey, man, as far as the first trailer goes, so far so good. All right, guys, that'll do it for all the emailed in stuff today. We're going to go over now and take some live questions. You guys have been pouring in the live questions. I don't think there's any chance in hell I'm going to get around to all of them, but that's okay. Let's get things started on the live questions. And we're going to get started with the first one from Manuel Fernandez, who writes, Thoughts on the new Harley Quinn animated series trailer? Katie Kuko as Harley Quinn is an interesting choice. It's an irrelevant choice. It's totally irrelevant. Just get somebody that sounds like the Harley Quinn voice from the shows. It really makes no difference whether it's Katie Kuko or however you pronounce the girl's name. I never liked her TV show anyway. It doesn't really matter. And honestly, it's not even really a trailer. It's just Harley Quinn giving her an excuse to swear and beep it out, have a little Batman cameo. She's in the prison with Poison Ivy. I mean, I don't know. It's whatever. To be honest with you, it didn't move my needle. Didn't move my needle at all, to be honest with you. I'm not saying there's not potential. There might be. I'm just saying for what we saw, nothing all that special. Aaron S. Eli writes, my second Dolby movie experience ever and first viewing of A Star is Born story was amazing. It was long, as you said, but I love the whole experience. It's a great movie, man. If you guys have not seen A Star is Born, go see it. I don't care if you hate Lady Gaga or whatever. She's awesome in this movie. She's just flat. She's going to get a nomination, I believe, for Best Lead Actress. Bradley Cooper damn well better get a nomination for Best Lead Actress. I think Sam Elliott is going to get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. This is a movie that Bradley Cooper will probably get nominated for Best Director. This is a movie that will get nominated for Best Picture. Do yourself a favor, go out and see it. It has some problems that I associate with Bradley Cooper being a first-time director. He didn't know how to edit his own film. I mean, it's too long. The movie is too long for what it is. It should have been cut down a bit, particularly in the second act. He tried to put in some story elements that didn't flow well. They just kind of jarringly came in and out. But I'm telling you what, overall, for a first-time director, he knocked it out of the frickin' park. Seriously. Gaga was amazing. Do yourself, even though this movie I know doesn't look like your kind of movie, go check it out anyway. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Tyler Yeats writes, did you see the trailer for Kevin Hart's new movie, The Upside? I did. Interesting looking trailer. He's doing it with Bryan Cranston. I love me Bryan Cranston. It's a little bit of a different project than we've ever seen a Kevin Hart in before. I have my doubts that he can deliver in a movie like this. I'm much more comfortable with Kevin doing his comedy because he's so good at comedy. But it's intriguing. So let's see how this one kind of develops moving forward. Dakota Barber writes, A Star is Born floored me. Favorite film of the year so far. Yeah, not in my top 3, but I agree with you, Dakota. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. For me right now, A Quiet Place is still my number 1 film of the year. Black Klansman is still my number 2 film of the year. Wrestling with my number 3 right now. But I think for me, A Star is Born falls just outside that, just barely. So I will be completely in its corner to get a Best Picture nomination. It's a wonderful film. Aaron S. Eli writes, enjoyed Venom without knowing the source material. Yeah, dude, color me shocked. I enjoyed it too. I did not love it. I'm not running around recommending everybody rush out and see it. It's not one of the great films of the year. It's not even one of the better comic book films of the year. But I enjoyed it mildly. Has problems, but much better than I thought it was going to be for sure. Kara Black writes, Tom Brady has now thrown 500 touchdown passes. Oh, he's the GOAT. Nobody with an ounce of integrity is not going to admit that Tom Brady is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time. One of only 3 quarterbacks now in history to throw for 500 touchdowns. It's amazing. Kara Black liked her question so much, she wrote it again. That was probably an accident, Kara. Aviator 986 writes, Avengers Annihilation? Kind of evokes a mysterious yet exciting tone for the snap. If this title is real, I have my doubts. I've seen that title floating around. I don't think it's the actual title. I'm certainly not saying it absolutely isn't the title, but I honestly don't give a lot of weight to it. I don't think Annihilation is the title, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Look, let's say this. If Avengers Annihilation actually ends up being the title of this movie, it's not a bad title. Not a bad title. But I still don't really think it is. We'll have to wait and see. Aaron S. Eli follows up with, Venom was IMAX 3D, and I usually hate 3D. It was okay. Yeah, I hate all 3D. I despise seeing movies in 3D. I think it's a useless gimmick. I hate it. I cannot wait for it to die. All apologies to those of you who enjoy seeing it in 3D. So I didn't see it in 3D, but you know what? You're not the only person I've heard say they don't normally see 3D, but they happen to see Venom in 3D, and they said that the 3D isn't all that bad. To me, though, I'm the wrong guy to talk to because, like I said, I think all 3D is bad. But it's just funny, Aaron, that you're not the only one saying that. So that's cool. Ben Rayner writes, better Venom. Venom in Venom or Venom in Spider-Man 3? Oh, that's easy. Venom in Venom is far better than the Venom incarnation they put in Spider-Man 3. That one's easy. Westman Arts writes, Have you seen the Mule trailer with Clint Eastwood? Funny, if only we just talked about that. Yes, Wiseman, we did. We just talked about that. You clearly wrote that question in before we talked about it. So, yes, we did. Curtis Lopez writes, was completely stunned by A Star is Born. Cooper and Gaga have high chances for Oscar noms. Absolutely. And you know what? The best thing about the movie, what really makes this movie work, is the chemistry between Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. It's great. It is the heartbeat of this movie. It's the driving engine that propels this movie forward. And if that dynamic, if you didn't buy into the dynamic between Cooper and Gaga, then the movie doesn't work. That's how heavily it relies on that dynamic. But it is there, and it does work. And it propels this movie to being not just a good movie, but a great movie. And I'm glad you recognize that. Aviator986 writes, so the Daredevil imposter is Bullseye. Not a huge spoiler for me, but would rather have found out when watching season 3. That's marketing for you, I guess. Yeah, but I don't, like you said, Aviator, you knew that was Bullseye. I think everybody knew it was Bullseye. It's one of those, because it's like this. Remember when Justice League was coming out? And Warner Brothers made the absolutely idiotic decision not to have Superman in any of their marketing? Well, we got to keep it a surprise. Everybody fucking knows Superman's in the movie. Everybody. Henry Cavill is tweeting out and putting up pictures of his Instagram of him on set of Justice League. Everybody knows Superman's in the movie. What's the point of not putting him in your marketing other than robbing yourself of some box office? So I think we kind of found ourselves in the same position, Aviator, right? I think this was kind of the similar situation. Everybody knew Bullseye was going to be in this season. Most people kind of surmised the fake Daredevil in the Daredevil costume was probably Bullseye. So I think, and you said it yourself, you knew it too, right? So really, there's no point in trying to keep that a secret. You might as well use it to promote the show and to promote the new season. So I personally had no problem with that. Like, I don't like it like you. I don't like it when they give away too much. But there's nothing really wrong with giving away something that we all already figured out anyway. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's just how I feel about it. Curtis Lopez writes, saw Rebel Without a Cause at a Fathom re-release. Oh, those are great. I love going to those. The other day, and for the first time, that was your first time seeing it. That's great. Amazing how that movie still holds up. It totally does. Totally does. You know, there's a list of about 30 or 40 films that I should actually do a video about this sometime. That is like 30, like films that every film fan should have in their repertoire and that you maybe haven't seen. Rebel Without a Cause is one of those. And it's just a great movie. And you're right. It stands the test of time. You can watch it today, and I think you can appreciate it as much as somebody who watched it for the first time 30 years ago. So I'm glad you had a chance to see it, man. The fact that you got to see it for the first time on the big screen is really something special. All right. I'm going to butcher your name. I'm going to try it here. Chandrasekhara Saraswathy writes, you know what? I don't think I butchered it. Venom can be good and bad, but some critics can't even appreciate Tom Hardy's acting. It's very difficult to act imagining that a symbiote is with you and react when he's talking to you and fight bad guys. Well, you know what the funny thing is? I think there are a lot of critics, to be fair, who didn't like the movie so much, but thought Tom Hardy was pretty good. Like, I've read a number of reviews from guys who did not like the movie, but thought Eddie was pretty good, particularly playing Eddie and Venom in the same body. So, to be fair, I think they did give him his credit. I think a lot of the credits are giving credit to for him for that, because it was very difficult. Because even as you're watching the movie, you see these as two separate characters. So our minds imagine them as two separate actors. But it was one guy in one body, not really hearing voices, but acting like he was. He did a great job, but it's Tom Hardy. No big surprise there. Marky Pop writes, where's Marky Pop? There he is. Thoughts on Russian bots trolling The Last Jedi? Well, we talked about that the other day. I mean, look, number one, nobody liked hearing about it. Because people who don't like The Last Jedi are saying, it's fake. No, it's not fake. It's real. It really happened. But then people who like The Last Jedi are going, see, nobody disliked The Last Jedi. Well, the reality is a bunch of people didn't like The Last Jedi too. They're both true. There were a bunch of fake stuff, but there's also a whole hell of a lot of real legitimate stuff. The fact that there was fake stuff does not negate the fact that there was legitimate stuff at the same time. So ultimately, to me, it all comes out in a wash, and at the bottom line, it didn't really mean anything. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Curtis Lopez writes, favorite song from A Star is Born? Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe I should pull out my guitar. No, I'm not going to pull out the guitar. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Yeah, I'm not going to sing the whole song here. But that was my favorite song from it. But Shallow, that's also in the trailer with Lady Gaga. It's an amazing song. And she belts it out a couple of times in the movie, and it's fantastic. James Welsh writes, if Venom lifted its review embargo, let's say a week before it opened, would the stars even want to promote it then? I know they have to, but I would be embarrassed if I had to promote a bad film. Look, every actor has to promote a bad film. Every actor has had to promote bad films. That's the way it is. And for me, Venom actually isn't even all that bad. And we know Tom Hardy really likes the film. So, yeah, that's part of the job. Your job, part of your contract, and why you get paid more money than you ever should be paid, is to promote the work you're in. That's the job, and everybody does it. And actually, Venom didn't even end up being all that bad. Marky Pop follows up with, going to see A Star is Born myself today because none of my friends want to see it. Then seeing Venom with friends tonight. You know what? Good doubleheader. And I like the order you're seeing it in it too, because you go to see A Star is Born, get the emotional stuff, and then hopefully, if you enjoy it, not everybody's going to enjoy Venom, let's be honest here. But if you do enjoy Venom, you go out with a little bit of a pop, some excitement, right? Star is Born is not an exciting movie. It's an amazing movie, but we all have movies we love that aren't necessarily exciting. So it's good to end with the exciting one, in my opinion. All right. Let's see. Curtis Lopez writes, over under 20% of Star is Born has a higher second weekend box office than Venom. I'll take, 20% is a low number, so I'm going to take the over on that. I'm going to take the over. A Star is Born is going to have great legs. It's going to have great legs. The legs on Venom, I don't think are going to be all that great. I think you're going to see Venom do real well opening weekend and take about a 65% drop in the second weekend. The question is Star is Born going to be good enough at the box office to make $25 million on its second weekend? I don't know, because they're expecting A Star is Born to make about 30 to 35 million opening weekend. Can it only take like a 30% drop? That's the big thing. But like I said, 20% is a low number, so I'll take the over on that. Bernie Palafox writes, Venom is not a bad film. I give it an 8 out of 10. Well, 8 out of 10 is amazing. You know me, guys, I don't give scores anymore. If I did give scores, I probably wouldn't go as high as 8 out of 10. But I agree with you, Bernie. Not a bad film. Not great. Not rushing out to go see it again today. But not a bad little film. Brad Timms writes, Venom's been my favorite villain since I was 5, so I was disappointed after hearing the reviews. But fuck me dead, I just saw the film and I loved it. Well, good. That's the important thing is, right? I mean, look, critics should say what they think. That's the idea. It gives you a gauge. It helps you adjust your expectations. But at the end of the day, when you see the film, all that matters is what you thought. And Brad is a fan of the character. I'm super thrilled that you had a good time with it. And you know what? To be honest with you, the bad reviews for Venom may have helped me have a good time at the film. Because my expectations were way through the floor, man. My expectations were way on the wrong end of a baseball bat with lube. I mean, that's where my expectations were for this film. And yet, because my expectations were maybe that low, maybe that's why I went in going, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. So maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it helped in that way, but I'm glad you had a good time, Brad. All right, Julian G. writes, hey, John, good meeting you yesterday at the AMC before Venom. Oh, right, man. Just to say, I love it, guys, when even though I'm completely socially awkward and I'm terrified of people, I actually get a big kick when you guys walk up and say hi. And I met like 4 or 5 of you guys last night at the AMC. Thank you so much for coming up and introducing yourselves. That was great. And particularly to you, Julian. Good meeting you yesterday at the AMC before Venom. I was really quick and I kind of froze. You didn't freeze. Don't worry about it, man. I'm sure you could tell I'm super socially awkward. Me too. You could probably tell I'm socially awkward too. Never feel bad. Dude, seriously, the honor is all mine. Like, I still can't believe, when I'm walking in the streets of Burbank or whatever, and like random people will like walk up to me and talk. I'm like, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm just some loser who sits in a spare bedroom studio and talks about movies. And you guys come up and say, I can't begin to tell you how honored that makes me feel. So yeah, it's always the highlight of my day. Whenever that happens, it's the highlight of my day. So thank you for doing that. That you made me feel really special, and I appreciate that, man. Marky Pop writes, I don't get why Catwoman gets so much hate. Underrated film, better than The Dark Knight, Logan, and Infinity War. Just kidding. I wanted to see your reaction as you read this. You kind of gave yourself away when you said better than The Dark Knight. If you had just left, Marky, listen, you want to get me? What you do is you make the get believable. If you stopped after, I don't get why Catwoman gets so much hate. It's an underrated film. If you had just left it there, you may have got me. But the moment you go, better than The Dark Knight, then you're like, oh, okay, this guy's joking. By Odin's Beard writes, Steve Carell has to get an Oscar at some point, right? You got to figure it's inevitable. Coming from The Office to being in the films like Little Miss Sunshine, Foxcatcher, Beautiful Boy, Welcome to Marwen, and Vice, he has to get an Oscar eventually, right? Well, this is one of the big things, Odin's Beard, is that, I always kind of tell people, the Oscar, what makes the Oscar so special is that it is the single most impossible thing in the world to win. Because there's a reason Martin Scorsese didn't win his first Directorial Academy Award until he did The Departed. Like, that blew people's minds. I remember when 3-6 Mafia won, they won like a Best Song Oscar for, I'm trying to remember, where the song was His Heart Out Here for a Pimp, and I'm forgetting the name of the movie that it was from. But 3-6 Mafia won an Academy Award, right? And then the host came out, it might have been Jon Stewart. And Jon Stewart comes out and he says, for those of you at home keeping score, 3-6 Mafia Oscars 1, Martin Scorsese 0. I mean, and it's hilarious and everybody laughed, but I mean, it is one of the single most impossible things to win. Not only do you have to turn in, if you're an actor, the performance of your life, you don't get to play defense in Oscars. You got to turn in the best performance of your life and then just sit down and hope some other idiot doesn't come along and give just that much better of a performance than you did. Like, there was a number of years where Robin Williams should have had an Academy Award on his mantle for Good Morning Vietnam. That was an Academy Award winning performance. But he just happened to do it the exact same year that this little guy by the name of Michael Douglas came along and gave his performance in Wall Street as Gordon Gekko. And ain't nobody was going to beat him that year with that. That's one of the most iconic performances of all time. Greed is good. Greed works. Iconic line from that movie. There was nothing that was going to stop him. Robin Williams should have had an Academy Award. But it just so happened, to be in the same year that Michael Douglas came along. And so for another long couple of years, he didn't have an Oscar. And then he picked one up, of course, for Good Will Hunting. And he got nominated for a couple of others as well. Steve Carell is so good. And these movies you've listed, Beautiful Boy, Welcome to Marwen, and Vice, these are 3 films all upcoming that he totally has a legit shot at getting Oscar contention for. You got to believe at some point he's going to get one. At some point you have to believe it's going to happen, but it may not. Even though he deserves it, may not. All right, time for 2 more questions here, guys, and I got to wrap it up today. This one comes to us from Julian G, who writes, I didn't get the chance to tell you that I really appreciate everything over the years. You and this community have really gotten me through some shit. Also had a good time with Venom, but not great. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Julian. You know what? That is the best thing. I talk about it all the time, and I never get tired of talking about it. The online film fan community, when it's working right, is an amazing place to be. Because like the movies themselves, when we get a chance to get together with a bunch of friends around a virtual water cooler and just talk about some of the things we love, no matter what kind of crap we got going on in our lives, and this is true of movies and the movie fan community, no matter what kind of crap we got going on in our lives, it is amazing how therapeutic it is when we can just step out of our situation for just a bit, give ourselves a bit of a break, take a mental reprieve, enjoy ourselves, have some fun, talk about this and talk about that. Just check out, it can help readjust our perception of the stuff that we're dealing with. It gives us a little bit of a breather so we're better equipped to go back and deal with the stuff that we're dealing with. And look, oftentimes you hear people say, movies are just movies. No, man, they're more than that. Movies are great and important, and so is the fan community, because it offers up visions of what life can be, about where life is, about what we think is possible or not possible. We get to engage with other people on that level, and we get to get that little bit of a reprieve from the real life shit that we're dealing with in our lives. And then we can go back into it and deal with it with a better frame of mind. The movies, to me, and the film fan community like that have always been that for me, and I'm really glad it can be that for you too, Julian. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Final question of the day comes to us from the great Murray Reich, who writes, I gotta say I enjoyed Venom. Many dialogue sequences were bad, but the chemistry between Eddie and Venom was so funny / great. Had a kick out of it. The Life Foundation villains I didn't give a crap about. Yeah, me too, man. That was one of the big weaknesses of the film. Could have used the kills in R, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, look, I was actually kind of stunned. Like 3 minutes into the film, bodies start dropping. And the only difference between the bodies dropping in Venom and the bodies dropping in Logan is that in Logan, you'll see dripping blood. In Venom, you don't. That's really the only difference. You still get the action. You still get that visceral violence, but just not dripping blood and things like that. Would that have been cool to see it? Yeah, I guess. Would it have made the movie any better? I don't know about that. But I completely agree with you, Murray. What strengths there are in Venom mainly rest on that dynamic between Eddie and the symbiote. Completely. And together they are Venom. And the way their relationship evolves, I thought was really fun. Corny at times? Sure. But fun. And it helped cover over some of the other weaknesses in the films, to the point that by the time the credits rolled, I was going, hey, I'm glad I saw this. Not the best, not blowing my socks off, but I'm glad I saw this. And I thought Michelle Williams was great. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to be happy about there. So, yeah. All right, guys, that will do it for today. For everybody from John Hine, Mike Zambrano, Murray Reich, all of you guys who asked questions after this, do not worry. I'm going to get through a bunch of companion videos this weekend. Your question will get answered on one of our videos. We just don't have time to do it today right now, but stay tuned this weekend for the companion video, because we will get to your questions. All right, guys, that will do it for me right now. Actually, why don't you come over here for a second? Oh, she's shocked. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm not even going to make her say anything except hi. So why don't you just come in here? Guys, this is Courtney.
Hello.
Who is Courtney? Well, that's a mystery you guys are going to have to hold on to for a few more days. But she was here kind of watching the scope of the show, and you're going to find out more a little bit later. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until next time.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.